Dear students, we are going to explore another Old English language text here, and I hope by the end of this activity you would have not only some hands-on experience of how to unfold or explore an Old English language text, but also you would be confident enough to try it on your own. I hope that this would add to your learning of the morphological, phonological, semantic, and syntactic features of Old English as they are exhibited in the selected text. The text that I have chosen for you is from the prologue of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. This is actually a yearly history of important events that were taking place in the 9th century. Well, since the text is taken from 9th century, you would find it slightly easier to read it. However, for your facilitation, I have given a word-to-word translation at the bottom of each part of the text. To begin with, if you look at the screen, you would find this much text here that I have bracketed here for you. The text is given in the bold, and its word-for-word translation in modern English is given here at the bottom. Let us read it. Britain Island is 800 miles long. All right, my pronunciation is almost of modern English. It is really difficult to pronounce it in the old English. However, I would point out some words. Notice this as compared to this. This Britain has become Britain. And very interesting example, by the way, is of island, this word, that I would like you to notice particularly. See how this particular sign is used to represent, I sound here, whereas here it is island with completely different spellings. For that matter, acha is your 8, which is very, very different from today's way of writing that. And this hun is 100 in modern English. I would later on again discuss in detail this particular example of mila, which is miles in modern English. I would talk about how the plurals are made later on. I am continuing with the text, and you can see here again on the screen the Old English text, which is followed by its translation in modern English. The very first representation, compare it with its modern form. Though in Old English, this particular sign that is used, it resembles the digit 7 in modern times. Actually, it means and. It means what? It means and. What is this? 2, modern English 2. And how you are familiar with, this is 100, Brad. Notice the vowel shift, the change in the vowel. Now we pronounce it as broad, and this is how we represent broad. We use O and A in that. And the last example from this particular line that I would like to give is this one. What is this? It is this, as it is used in modern English. But interestingly, the sign that is used is this one. That is now is replaced in modern English with this. By the way, Old English had so many different varieties available to show this particular sound, the. We are continuing with the text, and you can see, and I am sure now you can read this very easily, island 5, that is 5 now. This 5, actually in Old English, fur and were pronounced and fur and were, but they were represented with this same F letter. So this is 5. This is fur and this is were. 5. Ireland, 5 languages, English and British. The last thing that I would like you to notice from this particular slide is the spellings of English, the use of S and C, which you can compare with S and H in English when it comes to representation, but both of them sound like sh sound. Now this you can read easily, and Welsh and Scottish and Pictish. Everywhere this is sh, as you can notice that. This particular word, my dear students, I would like you to notice. Bookletin. This is a word that has now disappeared from the vocabulary of modern English. In the same way, notice this Landers Bristlen, which is Britain's, and you can again notice that this particular choice has disappeared from the vocabulary of English over the times. In the writing, as I have already pointed out, you would have noticed this letter, which stands for this particular, choice, as it is written like this. And I have talked enough about these choices. Another thing that I would like you to notice is the use of punctus. That is a punctuation mark. All right, how do we use a full stop? We use it like this in modern English. But it was used like this in Old English, somewhere in the center of the line and slightly bigger. When it comes to capitals, all right, you would have noticed, I hope, that in Scottish, Welsh, English, everywhere the initial letter was kept small. As far as the structure is concerned, you can notice that there were so many different ways of making plurals. I already pointed out the word mila, which is miles in modern English. And when you compare these two ways of making these plurals, you would notice that Old English actually gives a possibility of making plurals in so many varied ways. You can notice this here. The example is here. You can notice this. In translating Old English, one often has to use extra prepositions because the prepositions are most of the times absent in Old English. For example, the use of "of." We have to add while translating that because it is not found there. As far as the word order is concerned, again, there are some word orders that are quite different from today, and there was a lot of variety and freedom in the choice of structures and syntax, whereas modern English has comparatively more restricted structures. Talking of certain words, I would like you to notice, as I have already pointed out, this word, bookletin, has disappeared from modern English. There are other words as well. For example, in the text, you can notice these words that they were present in the text, but in the modern English, we do not find them. Very interestingly, my dear students, there is even a different word for R. Let us quickly see how it was represented. This R in modern English, when you look at this Old English text, you would see how different it is. We cannot know that this is a replacement of R in Old English until and unless we have specialized studies in that. The meanings of certain words have also undergone certain changes. For example, the words British and Brines do not have today's meanings. They refer to the Celtic tribes of those times who lived in British, but today British means a particular connotation we have of the word, not the Celtic tribes as such. In fact, British and Welsh were one and the same language items, which meant, the same. The Brito-Welsh, that is why the writer says that there are 5 languages, and then when we look at the list in the text, there are actually 6. I hope you enjoyed this experience of unfolding a sample of Old English language.